Good morning, Stewart's Chapel. Brother Don Pierson here, and Don Counts, and this is Monday's devotion, and we're at the Harris farm. I want to turn you over to the book of Job, the very last chapter. Now, there's a lot in the book of Job. Job is one of my favorite books. Job and Romans are the only, well, I take that back. Job, Roman, and John, the Gospel of John, are the only books in college and seminary that I took extensive courses on just to dig into. And Job, well, Job was a good study and a good book. So we're in the very last chapter of Job, chapter 42. We'll start in verse 10. And the Lord restored Job's losses when he prayed for his friends. Indeed, the Lord gave Job twice as much as he had before. Then all his brothers, all his sisters, and all those who had been his acquaintances before came to him and ate food with him in his house. And they consoled him and comforted him for all the adversity that the Lord had brought upon him. Each one gave him a piece of silver, and each a ring of gold. Now the Lord blessed the latter days of Job more than his beginning, for he had 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, 1,000 yoke of oxen, and 1,000 female donkeys. He also had 7 sons and 3 daughters. And he called the name of the first Jemimah, the name of the second Keziah, and the name of the third Karen Hapuk. Now, how would you like to have that name? Hapuk? All right, that's enough about that. In all the land were found no women so beautiful as the daughters of Job, and their father gave them an inheritance among their brothers. After this, Job lived 140 years and saw his children and grandchildren for 4 generations. So Job died, old and full of days. Well, again, just recently I was having a conversation with a man that was suffering, and I mentioned Job to him. And, you know, from the beginning of chapter 1 to the end of chapter 42, literally the Bible lets us know that's another 100 and some years. 100 and some years. Most of us, when we have lost all of our children, all of our servants, all our lands and everything else, we would not have been thinking about finishing well or faithful. Even if God told us, hey, it's okay, I'm going to bless you. No, grief does something to us. Trouble, suffering, and pain does something to us. For most of us, now me myself, for most of us, suffering, grief, pain either slows us down in finishing or causes us to stop finishing. You see, that's really what Satan wanted early on. God had a lot of confidence in Job. I don't know whether God has that much confidence in me, but God had a lot of confidence in Job, enough to take on the challenge of Satan. You see, though God knew, and one of you that are out there listening, you actually gave this to me in a text last week, where you said that one of your goals was to stumble but not fall down. And I think I texted you back and I said, well, I don't know whether that's one of my goals, but stumbling and not staying down is not one of my goals. Job stumbled. He stumbled considerably. And you can see why. But he finishes well. You know, when we read the book of Job and we read about all this stuff that he gets, we think that all of a sudden, just like that, God snapped his finger and all of a sudden he's got all those children, all those grandchildren and great-grandchildren, 4 generations, everything back again, just like that. No, it took 100 years or more for all that to return. Most of us are not that faithful. Most of us have a problem with one bad year. Most of us have a problem finishing well. I'm not a Job. But I do know the Lord has blessed me greatly. And I hope that I'm a kind of follower of the Lord that even if I lost everything that He has given me, that I would still be faithful to Him because He would still be God. How are you doing in your faithfulness in the midst of your suffering and pain? How are you doing in your faithfulness in the midst of prosperity? Love you, Stewart's Chapel.